Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from John and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite. It is Wednesday night following tonight's event from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C.
Yes. Mm-hmm. How you doing?
Been?
Washington, D.C.? I have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When did you go there?
Oh, man. When I was very young. I think it was like on one of those tour guided tour things.
Okay.
All of those. Yeah. So I don't have a huge impression of it. I'd love to go back actually as an adult. So
okay, we should do a trip, you and I,
to Washington.
Maybe once they engulf us as the 51st state. Maybe we can get like a free pass. Don't have to worry about any border security, and we can just walk right over, go up to the White House, have a nice day.
Yeah, we could do that. You want to wait for that, or okay,
or we could who knows?
Let's go.
I've always wanted to go to Washington, D.C. I've never been, have never had the opportunity to go, but that would be a place I would at least like to go once.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I don't know. Might have missed my chance. I don't know if now's the greatest time to be going there. Maybe I'll go for it. Maybe I'll go down to during the inauguration. Go check that out. See how that goes.
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
You could.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's really not that far, in for us at least. You know,
driving or flying?
I would say either.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's doable. It's definitely doable. Yeah. Okay, well there you go. That's our vacation thoughts coming up in the future. Did you have a relaxing day, a nice day?
Yeah, it was fine. I wouldn't say relaxing, but yeah, it was fine. Okay. How about yourself?
It was all right. It was Wednesdays are usually busy, but a good kind of busy.
That's good.
I don't know. I've got this this weird issue with one of my one side of my throat is like bothering me, but the other one is not. Is that ever something that happens to you?
One side of your throat, meaning like
it feels like there's a particular the right side seems to be like I don't know. It's like
So what is it?
It's like half a sore throat is what I feel like I have.
Okay, so is it a vocal cord thing? Because Jordan Goodman was just talking about this. He said that what he ended up suffering was like damaged, swollen vocal cords, and
Does he know what caused it?
For him, it was COVID. Actually,
long
shit. COVID.
I hope that wasn't the cause of this.
Well, I mean, at least he might have a bit of a remedy for maybe a vocal cord damage. But you sound fine to me.
Yeah, it's not debilitating. It's just it's been there all day.
So you got like one side of soreness?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm of no help on this podcast.
Clearly, I was really hoping for a diagnosis, potential remedy, a Ting family secret, but you have none of that to provide. What you did have to provide was the season finale of the Wellness Policy, the Open Hearts edition on Tuesday. Wai, I have seen the reviews. I have seen like the podcast that has to be listened to fully experience. I mean, if this was a small garden that you three planted all those years ago, with just those seeds, it has now sprung into something I can't even possibly describe. This is a show that no people could ever come up with a concept like this, and it would turn into a show such as you three have created. This is the most unique show in our space by leaps and bounds, if this graphic doesn't tell you enough.
Well, I'm curious to know by your, how would you define the show? What exactly is the concept of the Wellness Policy?
Well, number one, I think it is a very clear loyalty pledge. Okay, and by that I mean here to take everyone into my some of my private messages. Okay, to a group of my friends. You guys free sometime around Christmas to grab drinks? Phil, I'm free after January 15th. And here I hear Phil calling into your show. I do feel that he has officially jumped friends. I think I've just been put to the wayside. I need to book him at least a month in advance. And you got an extended chat with Phil. So you are now in more contact with my friend than I am.
I guess so. Yeah. I'll tell you. At least, like, I guess there's the forum that we've provided for like listeners of the wellness policy is, I think, very different from any other show that's on the network. We just had an open calls edition where people could just kind of call in and talk about exactly what's on their minds, and the topics range from, I guess, dating to Phil wanted to give us a lot of background on the Keg Steakhouse and Bar, but ended up talking about his love life instead. It's one of the weirdest shows, but also one of the best shows I think we've ever done. So check that out right now, postwrestlingcafe.com, but free. So listen to it for free at Post Wrestling, or what, YouTube. Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah. I think Wai and I, we're going to go attend an open mic night. I think that's the plan, right?
Oh, yeah. So you listen to most of the show.
Yes, I listened to most of it.
So you must know that you are the guest for the next episode.
I got to the end. I've not committed. I don't want to poison the well. Okay,
what?
It's a nice thing you guys have.
Well.
I think it's a nice Pollock free zone. I think for
all
parties.
We've been waiting. I've actually just been hesitant because I'm talking to one of the busiest people I know. But I think now's the time. January is the time to welcome John Pollock onto the wellness.
I don't know.
policy.
I don't know how comfortable I am about this. Like, what'll the topic be? The topic will be John. I don't want this. It's too much pressure. It's too much pressure. I don't want this. I don't want a psychoanalysis of myself. I get that enough from those in my orbits.
Trust me, it won't be. We will all volunteer just enough information from all
Well, I might
of
be
us.
in Washington, so I might not be available.
Okay.
I might go to the inauguration. Yeah.
TBD about Pollock's status.
Go check out this show, and you will be understanding my perspective of why I don't participate in this show when you listen to it, because it's a fantastic show. And
thank you for listening.
Wai's going to go with me at a comedy bar one night. We're going to go watch Hansi, because I don't have any other friends that'll hang out with me. At least
down.
not this month. Okay.
Well, we'll ask Hansi the next time he goes up on stage. I'll be right there.
Okay. I want to see his bit about sitting on the couch. I think that would be
me too.
And we'll be like, we will be plants there just to laugh at all of his jokes. Like, it's just.
I never said I would laugh.
I would definitely laugh for Hansi. Okay, well, there you have it. That is the wellness policy. Coming up this week, we have on Friday, we have Rewind to SmackDown. It's getting a little quiet as we go into Christmas week, but we will be we will have a lot next week dropping. But Saturday night, after Collision, John Cena and Kate from Montreal will be going live, and we are going to get a dual review because on Friday night, John Cena is going to the Hammerstein Ballroom for Final Battle, so he will get an in-person review to provide you, the listener, and I would imagine Kate will be watching the show as well. So they will go through Final Battle and what I think will be a pretty hot edition of Collision, which is their second night at the Hammerstein Ballroom featuring the Will Ospreay Ricochet match. I think these are going to be some really like hot atmospheres for AEW these 3 nights, and I include ROH in that, and we will go through the card a little later on during the news. But that is all coming up this weekend. Also, an edition of Postmarks will drop on Saturday. If you're not listening to Postmarks, that is our monthly show. Again, a show I have nothing to do with to all of its success as a result. David Myers and Bruce Lord speaking to you, the listener, and this month's listener is Ryan Charco.
The Ryan Charco himself. One of my favorite shows that's on our network, where I get to learn a lot about the people that actually consume post wrestling. So, and we get to hear them talk about how much they love us. I mean, come on. It's great for my.
It's a very vain show. Yes, this is. We want you guys to just talk about us. No, we actually don't even come up all that much on these shows. No. They're fun listens, though, into the lives of so many of our listeners.
All of this is on the Post Wrestling Cafe's free feed, so you don't even have to subscribe. You just sign
up. There's no financial commitment on the free tier. You can just as WH call it, you can just be a freeloader, and you get these cool bonus shows free of charge. All right, so that is coming up. And, of course, the Christmas show will be dropping on Christmas Eve. So what better way to celebrate Christmas than by ignoring your family and friends and putting your headphones on, going into a corner. Maybe you want to cast it to your TV. Maybe so. It will be a beautiful video production as well. That will be dropping Christmas Eve. The invites are out. Canada Post no longer on strike. You know how I found out the strike ended?
How?
A card arrived today for my daughter for her birthday from a month ago.
From your daughter?
No, it was for my daughter. It was
your
a birthday card for her, and
Gotcha.
I opened it up. I thought this was like an early Christmas card. Instead, it was a happy birthday.
Oh, well, that's a nice
Dated
surprise.
a month ago. I was like, okay, well, we're getting mail again. So the invites are out. We will find out which guests RSVP and come for the Christmas party. We always look forward to these.
Block out your Christmas Eve. Block out your Christmas Day because you're going to need it.
And you can submit your Christmas jingles. You have until Monday, so I'm sure many people furiously putting together their last-minute jingles. Deadline Monday, forum.postwrestling.com. Submit your jingles, and we will play all of them on the show, and we will announce the winner on the Christmas show. Who will be crowned the winner, and what will we send you? Maybe we will put something together, depending on your location.
It'll probably be something really nice from the Post Wrestling store at Chop-Tees.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well there you have it. A reason enough to join the Post Wrestling jingle contest. So all of that is coming up next week, and now we move on to several news items. We will start off. We went pretty in depth in the whole leaf fitting story today. Of course, if you are catching up on the news today, the New York Times. Katie Strang and Andrew Marchand had a lengthy feature on leaf fitting and some of the allegations levied against him during his time at ESPN. This came out through a investigation that ESPN did, of which there were multiple instances of allegations of misconduct in the workplace where leaf fitting was named. The Athletic spoke to over 20 people for this story, and it is one where this really does kind of like paint a culture that existed at ESPN and sounded like someone even as high ranking as leaf fitting. The results of this investigation was just, it was too much that they could not just turn a blind eye toward. And, it was very curious when he was let go in August of 2023. This was right before football season was set to begin, so it wasn't as though it was some, several months out. It was very abrupt, and you had this Emmy scandal as well that some looked at. Could this be the reason that he was let go? And I mean, this kind of provides a bit more clarity. The natural question is, when WWE hired him in January, I mean, was there a disclosure of this? What were they aware of as well? And I think it's a natural question. Like, you have not heard any untoward conduct by leaf fitting in his WWE role, but it's a relevant question of someone that is in this position and left a very high level position at ESPN and we'll make it clear, like in what is indicated here, these are like fireable offenses, like where he is texting women, where he is making comments you can't be making in the workplace. He is not accused of anything criminal or anything involving conduct, or I should say contact. But regardless, like, this is stuff that is not going to fly in a workplace. And, if the higher up you are, I think you are going to be given leeway in this situation. But, he was not. And there was just a preponderance of examples, and a lot of them are cited in this report from The Athletic. So, I don't know if you've had time to go through the whole article, but that's kind of a recap of it. And WWE did not respond or they declined to comment when The Athletic reached out to them.
Sure. Yeah. Not the entire article, but I guess, a lot of what's there. And I think maybe for me, more just notable the fact that this person now happens to be involved in a company that is completely like, their biggest, I think, black mark this year in a year of overwhelming positivity has still been the attachment and the questioning of sexual misconduct allegations against former employees, and the Ring Boy scandal. I mean, this is just a company that's still very much dealing with the topic of sexual misconduct, and to have somebody that's a higher come in really afterwards with this attached to them becoming a public story right now is I mean does lend to further questions about like what the current culture of this company is and whether or not it's being appropriately addressed.
Yeah, and I guess it does become of what kind of reaction there is to this story. I think WWE is not going to voluntarily speak on these matters with the hope that this is going to have a short news cycle to it. He's not somebody that is. I think it would be different if he was someone on camera that would be put in front of audiences.
He's about as close as you can get to somebody being on camera.
He's not behind the scenes. He's not like a private entity. His name is plastered at the end of every show. It's not as though he is like he has more of a profile than Jamie Horowitz did a number of years ago, and he came into the company. He was let go by Fox Sports for allegations as well of misconduct.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, I was going to say maybe not at the level of a Kevin Dunn, because Kevin Dunn is somebody who's appeared on screen several times. Prior to today, I don't think I even knew how Lee Fitting looked like. But he's certainly approaching Kevin Dunn levels. He's being perceived as the number 2 next to the creative head and Paul Levesque.
So we do have a story up on the site. And again, if you want to hear a more lengthier discussion, myself and Brandon Thurston spent the first half of the show talking about this story and several different angles to it as well. So we'll move on. Also on the site now is a story from Brandon Thurston, who goes into this story from Jaime Hawn, who is the ex-partner of BJ Whitmer. BJ Whitmer was arrested and charged with strangulation and second-degree burglary in June of 2023. He was subsequently fired from his role as a producer at AEW, and his partner, Jaime Hawn, had been in contact with AEW and was dealing with Mega Parek. But as you recall, last year, Mega Parek left that position in AEW to work at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we've never really understood what exactly went down there, but she has not returned to that role. And then Chris Peck oversaw this, or took over this situation. It seems as though, according to, this is Jaime Hawn, who has posted a lengthy message as part of a GoFundMe account that, in a nutshell, didn't believe Chris Peck handled this with any kind of care or tact the way that Mega Parek did, and it caused her a lot of problems. She is now homeless with 3 children, and that's the reason for this GoFundMe. And I would encourage people to go and read the story, and it seems that a lot of it comes down to that there was an NDA in place, and Jaime Hawn believing that there was an understanding that there would not be information that would be passed over to the defense, that being BJ Whitmer's attorney. Information was shared, and whether or not AEW was within their rights to do that or not. We don't really know what the answer to that is. And we kind of are relying here on, the statement from Jaime Hawn, and as well of the memo that the police statement that, that had a lot of details attached to it as well about like the actual details of the arrest, the charges, etc. So that story is up on the site right now with Brandon Thurston putting that together for us. And then today, WWE held their Netflix Kickoff event at WWE headquarters, and they did several. They made several news items. The first of which is Logan Paul being moved to the Raw roster, and also bringing up, throwing out Conor McGregor's name, which has gained some traction after Conor McGregor had sent out a tweet that a group in India is willing to put together an exhibition fight between the two, and that would be his next fight with Logan Paul, and then he would return to the octagon. And if you had any doubt in the world about how a Conor McGregor return would be handled, just look at the amount of hype that this tweet has received. The idea of Conor McGregor engaging in an exhibition fight, you are kidding yourselves if you think that his return is going to generate any significant pushback, because people were all too excited to jump at the idea of, oh my God, a big Conor McGregor fight with Logan Paul. Regardless, whether that, I mean, there are certain skepticism of such a fight taking place, but regardless, Logan Paul moving to the Raw roster. And I do have to say that I could certainly see in this next year, Logan Paul being on Raw, the fact they are on Netflix, of Logan Paul being on a short list of someone that you would maybe pair with a John Cena at some point during the year. I could see that being a type of matchup that would be attractive to WWE to promote, given their respective reach.
If the game is to make the biggest matchups possible with the talent that you have under your umbrella, yeah, of course, it's something that you would probably entertain. You know, like for better or worse, the Paul name contains a whole lot of cachet in the combat sports world right now, and he is arguably one of the biggest. It's like he's at the very top in terms of like mainstream names that you have attached to the brand as an active wrestler. I'd put him up there with Dwayne Johnson and John Cena. So it completely makes sense that they would entertain it. If all parties were to agree to it, I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
Can you see any sort of kind of hanger-on effect of this getting off the ground on Netflix, of like Jake Paul being intertwined in any of this on Raw with Logan Paul? I mean, to me, that is a natural crossover that I think WWE would love, and I'm sure Netflix would want as well if Jake Paul were willing to, you know, not even to wrestle, but just to have some kind of presence sporadically.
Yeah, I would absolutely say yes. I think maybe the only caveat being, like, is there a significant dollar figure attached to having a Jake Paul, even in that sort of capacity in a non-wrestling role? I mean, like, does he have his own number in mind, knowing how much of a commodity he is for, combat sports in general? And is that, something that the WWE is willing to entertain? It's not like they're short for money, but we also know that they do have maybe financially, amounts that might make sense or might not make sense for them. But I mean, if everybody's agreed, WrestleMania seems like it would be a perfect opportunity to have some of that celebrity integration. Again, no judgment on, like, I'm not expressing like how people feel about the Paul brothers. I'm simply stating, talking about their business right now.
And they also made it official that Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley will have their title match on that January 6th debut. So they instead of announcing it Monday, they held it off for this event. So that brings the match total to 3, with this match joining the Tribal Combat match with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa and CM Punk against Seth Rollins. That at one point on the broadcast today, Michael Cole did refer to Punk and Rollins as the main event for January 6th. We will see if that's the case. But like, already we have such a loaded show. You'll have John Cena on this show. I think you're going to have all the big stars on this launch, January the 6th. And perhaps even that's when this Intercontinental title tournament has its finals. But I am curious if they just load everything to week 1 and then do not worry about promoting week 2 until, setting up an angle on this show. I do think you want to have like a month's worth of, big things to promote on Netflix versus just week 1 and that in and of itself. But there's no doubt that this first week is going to be probably like their most watched Raw until they have something gigantic down the road.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the talk has been that they are looking to load this up, and they in some ways have, to feel like it's a WrestleMania level event. In many ways, it already feels superior to most PLEs that they put on. And if that's the case, like, I'm looking for significant sort of resolution to occur out of these matches. And if you have that, then the episode afterwards automatically will feel big, because you want to see the fallout from, for instance, Roman Reigns becoming the definitive tribal chief by winning the Ula Fala, for instance, or whatever the outcome of this Rollins versus Punk match might be. So maybe they have that to fall back on.
All right, and we'll just quickly go through some of the ratings. We talked today about the Saturday night's main event number. It did 1,590,000 viewers and a .42 in the demo. So this was only slightly above what Raw did on Monday night, this being on broadcast. As I mentioned today, if you compare this to SmackDown on Fox, this was lower than every SmackDown on Fox except for one best of show that aired last December. Did this audience number, I mean, did you expect a sizable leap above a typical Raw or SmackDown that they would draw for this Saturday night? Or did you think that this would be in line with the average weekly television viewership that WWE attracts?
I think a bit maybe hard to define my expectations because Saturday is to be a bit of an X factor, knowing that it's not a regular night for wrestling for a lot of people, certainly not. But it is also like being promoted as a PLE, and
that is pay-per-view night.
That is a pay-per-view night. So it's not like it's completely out of the habits of wrestling viewers. When I saw the number, I thought it was a bit of a disappointment, just considering like the hype that I think they successfully made for it. At the same time, well, how does it fall in the context of what expectations might be from NBC for?
I don't know what they were expecting in this slot. Like, certainly this was not going to do like the level of like a big college football game that NBC would have. But for this time of the year where there was no college football on Saturday, like they were third on all of television in the demo. So I am sure they were not. Like in another era, of course, this would be a disaster of a number. Today, this was fine. It was below what I thought this was going to be. I did enjoy, as we got a preview of next year, as we debate linear broadcast numbers with streaming as well, and what is what. But here's my question to you, because this question gets thrown out there, and we're never going to get the answer to this because it's not going to air on a broadcast network. But the question of like, what would a WrestleMania do on network television? And like, I've heard some insane estimates of people thinking what a WrestleMania would do. And granted, it's Saturday night's main event, but like, I certainly think there's a ceiling to even like whatever your biggest show is that you could put on as WWE of what it would get on broadcast.
I can't throw a number out there like me.
I want the exact
uneducated number. Yeah. So you're suggesting, is there a ceiling to the number of people that would just watch professional wrestling, like given like the biggest platform possible? Is that what you're saying?
I do.
Probably, yeah. But what is that number? And again, like what is the metric of success? For the platform that's choosing to air that content.
Well, I think it's just it's an understanding that yes, you have NFL football that is in its own universe, and nothing is approaching that. Is WWE, even during this hot period, is this something that could replicate an NBA final or a bowl game for like its biggest event? And I think the idea of a WrestleMania drawing like 10 million viewers on a broadcast network, I think that is an exceptional leap to think that it would draw that.
Interesting.
But I say that as January the 6th, we're going to get some insane numbers for this Netflix debut, which again will be worldwide numbers. But regardless, I think that I did think this was a disappointing number given this was promoted so heavily and that this didn't even replicate really what they were averaging on Fox when they were on network television every week.
So not to say like we'll ever find out this information, but I'm more so curious how many non-WWE viewers tuned in to it, because much of this show
they treated it like it was new fans, and I don't. Yeah. This number suggests to me that this was not new fans, that this were your fans that wanted 2 more hours of WWE and not ones that were sampling. That would be my guess.
And is that any indication of what a Netflix premiere or just a Netflix stay would provide? Would they only be attracting people that would be watching wrestling anyway, or would they be attracting new audiences? I mean, different platforms, but I mean we'll find out in some way.
Raw Monday did 1,533,000 and a .48, so those were up 11 and 10% respectively, going against a NFL doubleheader that did a combined audience of 17.8 million viewers. And then NXT on Tuesday, 708,000 viewers which is their third largest audience on CW and highest since the second week, which had Randy Orton and Javon Evans. So that was a great number. 18 to 49 was slightly down from a 0.17 to a 0.16. And for those 708,000 viewers that tuned in, they got to see Javon Evans and his guts leave his body. Did you at all get to see this attack angle where, I mean, there are blood capsules, and then there are like this had to have been like a Halloween trick store that they went to, where, I mean, the man pretty much coughed up a lung from this attack by Ethan Page. My big question was, will they allow Ethan Page into the locker room next week? Did he cross the line?
I think he'll be okay.
Okay. Last item here. Final one before we get to Dynamite, and that is Final Battle on Friday night. I have to say, I think they've done a pretty good job of promoting this. I think that Chris Jericho has done a very good job, and they are billing this as a double main event with Chris Jericho against Matt Cardona and Athena versus Billy Starks. Athena, who has held this title now, just passing the 2-year mark, and did an interview with Denise Salcedo indicating they will be the main event going on last at the end of the night. And I have no disagreement with that, especially if they're going to be doing the title change at the end, which will be very, very significant if they, for this lengthy title reign that Athena has had. But those are the two big matches that they're promoting at the Hammerstein Ballroom. The rest of the card includes Lee Moriarty, who will be defending the Pure Championship in an open challenge, a survival of the fittest match with Brian Cage defending the World Television title against Willie Mack, Commander, Mark Davis, AR Fox, and Blake Christian, Jay Lethal against QT Marshall, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara defending the ROH tag titles in a Texas bull rope match against Vincent and Dutch, and Red Velvet, Layla Hirsch for the women's television title. So we have 7 matches. How many matches do you think we will have come Friday night?
Maybe 11.
I'm going 12. Oh,
12, okay.
Including pre-show. Yeah, I think we'll go up to 12.
Okay. No,
but this is a very nice lineup. And I'll say, I do feel for all these shows coming up, I do feel like the Hammerstein Ballroom is that kind of venue that does have, like, that is part of the interest is right there, is the hope that you're going to have these hot crowds all 3 nights, and that's going to add to the atmosphere of these shows. So I think it's an important weekend for AEW, just in terms of, performing in front of, hopefully, some great crowds at the Hammerstein. You're going to get some excellent wrestling matches these 3 nights, but they certainly need that kind of momentum boost. And maybe this weekend it's not going to be the cure to all the issues that they've been going through, but could be well-received shows that you come out of this weekend feeling, and going into pay-per-view week next week for the end.
What are the numbers for the shows right now? Do you know? Ticket sales.
I would have to look them up. I mean, all of them are in the range of like 1,000 to 1,200, and I'm sure they'll move some more. I mean, the setup is not. I know that everyone looks at GCW doing 2,000. That was a very unique setup that they had to be able to get to 2,000, and with all of the setup and such, I don't know how much above like 1,400 they could even fit in there for the capacity. So I feel like these shows will be like full by the time we get there. So here, Way has pulled it up. The last update.
This is as of the 16th, so 2 days ago.
Okay, so. Yeah, so as of 2 days ago, about 1,200 for Friday night's Final Battle, 1,300 for Collision Saturday, and 1,400 for Dynamite on Sunday. So, I mean, whatever they have it scaled for, I think they will be close to that capacity come each of the shows. So,
all right.
Those are all coming up. Check that out. And now we will move on to the Holiday Bash at the Entertainment and Sports Arena in Washington, D.C. 2,809 tickets distributed at last check from WrestleTix. And I thought that they had like another like energetic crowd for a good portion of this show, and they seem to be really lively. In particular for the Will Ospreay Darby Allin match that we'll take time to speak on. But I mean, outside of like a few lulls in the show, like this crowd was up for a good portion of this show, and I did not think this was an extension of past crowds that we've kind of lamented.
I didn't think so either. it's always impressive, like when you say the number and I compare it to other Dynamites that have had similar numbers, and how you could really tell like they were small crowd in a big building. What's the capacity for the building tonight? Do you know?
This is the entertainment sport arena, and this is definitely a arena that they have run before in Washington.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, this is like a 4,000 or so seat arena. So this is not some large like NBA size arena. Yeah.
So maybe again, like just more to the argument of picking your right venues for the sizes of crowds that you're drawing right now, because it seemingly made a big difference to the on-screen product tonight. We've heard from people that attend these other shows that to us sounds kind of dead, but to them, being in the crowd sounded lively. And I imagine the only difference being just maybe the cavernous of particular venues. But you didn't have that problem tonight. I thought the crowd tonight greatly elevated all the wrestling.
And you didn't have that issue last night at NXT in Lowell, Massachusetts. They had about 1,800 people, and like the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, God, like WWE's been running that. Like that was a staple in the 80s and 90s.
It's where Sean lost his smile.
Yeah, and where Ethan Page lost his as well. So you had, like it sounded great. Sounded great for like that size. So we start things off backstage. Renee speaking with Jay White and Orange Cassidy and where their focus lies, because they've got a 6-man tonight teaming with Hangman Page. White is focused on the AEW title, but first they have to get there. So he has to rely on Orange and Hangman Page. Page appears and says that he is, Jay White rather says that Hangman is only good at one thing, and that's letting people down. And Page walks through the doors and declares that Moxley is his tonight. And that sets the stage for a will they coexist main event.
Yeah. Obviously more on this when we actually get to the match itself. But they're a full steam ahead with this very unique way of building to a 4-way.
And then we had some promos from Darby Allin and Will Ospreay getting ready for their match tonight. And they just ran through the whole lineup for tonight as we go into Mercedes.
I like the way that they introduced the show today. I mean, often we see with modern professional wrestling, especially AEW, they just go right into the first matches. I like the way that we had a bit more of an easing in today with like showing the promos for arguably the two biggest matches tonight, that being the Death Riders versus the 3 AEW baby faces, and also the promos for Darby and Ospreay. Just a bit of anticipation that they're building from the get-go.
It was almost like they had this expectation that, you know what, not every person that's tuning in is on our Twitter feed every day and might not know what the lineup is tonight. I thought this was a great start to just tee up everything.
Even if you know the lineup, just to kind of like be refreshed and to know what to what to look forward to later on, just helps build your anticipation for it,
So first up is Mercedes Moné and Anna Jay for the TBS Championship, just days after Mercedes' title defense against Hazuki, which they mentioned they put over the match quality and the challenge answered by Mina Shirakawa. So they did focus on this. Early on, it's the 3 amigos from Mercedes, and then it's Moné controlling her through the picture-in-picture break. Jay uses an O'Connor roll into the Queenslayer. Great setup, and Moné kicks off the turnbuckle, rolling on top, and then it's Jay with a backstabber, blockbuster, and these running spin kicks into the corner that were landing perfectly. Gory bomb is hit, but Moné grabs the bottom rope. Quite a lively reaction for this as they're going at such a quick pace. And then the Queen Slayer's applied again. She yanks Mercedes to the center of the ring. The fans are cheering, and Mercedes bites the arm of Jay to get out, lures her into a statement maker, and Jay tries to counter it, but Moné goes back to the submission. Rope break, and then the Moneymaker is stopped. She's rammed into the corner and Jay is hit with a sunset bomb and double knees before the Moneymaker is executed, and Mercedes makes her 11th TBS title defense, 10 minutes, 32 seconds. Dare I say that Mercedes Moné has been on a great roll since Full Gear, because I thought this was great. This wasn't the Hazuki match of Sunday, but I thought this was just a terrific TV match to start things off. I really, and this kind of set the tone. Like the crowd got into this, and you had this crowd for a good portion of the show. This was, I just thought, a really great start.
It was a very good TV length match and a very good pace for that TV length match. I really do agree that I think Moné is hitting her stride in this current run. Her confidence is strong, and I think she's performing as good in ring as we've ever seen her. She's bringing also the best out of her opponents, and you coupled the fact with like this being a very good crowd that gave them strong engagement throughout the entire match. You ended up with, I think, a great showcase for Anna Jay, and that's ultimately what you're looking for out of like a Mercedes Moné TV match. You want her to provide a high attention showcase for the opponents that she's facing, and Jay looked really good here.
I thought this was definitely Jay's best match since she came back from Stardom in the summer.
She kept up with Moné through a lot of these intricate sequences that they were designing. Still super iffy on that Moné maker. Like in the Hazuki match tonight, like none of them looked good. But at this,
I thought this one looked better than the Hazuki ones.
But at this point, like clearly Moné is just stubborn about it, or she doesn't think it looks bad. Maybe this is just the way it's supposed to look now. That like the DDT
I think almost
kind of
that's like it's like this is just the way it's supposed to look.
It's a twirl, yeah.
Yeah.
Like whatever. Like maybe.
But hey, it certainly seemed like afterwards they cut backstage. Chris Statlander's there, so they're obviously running that match back, whether that's at World's End or on TV. And then you have the Mina Shirakawa match at the Tokyo Dome. So it's like I think Moné, like this is going to be her strongest run she has had post WWE, because I mean I think that it would be very tough for these matches coming up to break this streak.
For all that's been criticized about, whether maybe her introduction to AEW, the Camille storyline, which I don't think is at this point getting picked back up.
Not even a reference to her at this point.
It's her in-ring quality that is ultimately going to define her AEW run, and she's, I think, really, again, hitting her stride right now.
So FTR, if you tuned into Collision, we saw them get kidnapped on Saturday. They've made their way home to North Carolina since then. No explanation of where they were taken to or what happened.
I believe they said that they were left out in the cold, blindfolded. I believe that's as much as they indicated.
Well, then I completely understand. They're home. They're frostbit.
They were left out to freeze. Yeah.
They explain we didn't have an issue with the Death Riders. This group that is trying to burn this place to the ground. They had no issue with them. Just your methods. Because some changes are needed in AEW. And where do these two men draw the line? We weren't going to let you poison a man and put cleaner down his throat. How these two got through this take without any laughter, this had to have been multiple takes. It was a total... we were not going to let you put cleaner down a man's throat.
So I, for one, am happy that we're finally at least getting baby faces that are directly addressing like the mission statement of the Death Riders. The fact that like they're at least saying they're targeting the idea that Mox is bringing up, that we need to change around here, and therefore that's why we're doing all of this. I haven't really heard baby faces in AEW directly address that. They're strictly addressing, these guys are like evil and they want to kill AEW. FTR is at least like considering what Mox is saying and agrees that change needs to happen, but they just don't agree with the methods, which is, putting cleaner down somebody's throat.
So as long as there's no plastic bags or poison.
Plastic bags, they don't seem to have any issue.
They didn't have too much of an issue with the plastic bags.
Cleaner down the throat, yeah, they did.
Yeah, so that's their only issue with these guys. So they are not cleared for the rest of the year, but they are cleared for January the 1st.
Well, listen, they were left out in the cold, John, okay?
Okay.
Like, I mean, you
we have
asthma.
an exact, when the clock hits midnight to end this year, you will be magically healed. So yeah. I would love to know what Doc Samson was able to ascertain from this near death. So they are cleared for Fight for the Fallen. They will fight the Death Riders, and we're not coming alone. So I think our thought of this being, whether Adam Copeland could pop up at the pay-per-view or you save him as a surprise for January the 1st, I mean, that's the only partner I can imagine happening here, especially for Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, certainly. You have a lot of expectations for that. I mean, I I can't see Adam Copeland not having a role on this show that I imagine is probably the most important wrestling show to him personally, that he's probably wrestled on in a long time, maybe even more so than like his WWE retirement match, for instance.
Would you do the angle before, or would you keep it a surprise for an Adam Copeland who, let's be honest, like he's not going to be the ultimate needle mover, but you're in AEW state right now. Should they promote this match?
I think they should do the CM Punk first dance type of tease, like basically all but hint that, hey, like he's going to be there, but without explicitly saying it, just so you still reserve a little bit of mystery for the pop. I feel like, you know, just between this tease tonight and the chatter that's bound to proceed from it, I think expectations are already there. I think they could probably hammer it home a little bit more, though.
The next segment was MJF coming out, and he does not care about the opinion of the Disgustings here in Washington. This was a first, okay? He started mocking the Washington Wizards, to which the crowd starts chanting, "Wizard sucks. The Wizards suck."
Really? Oh, wow.
And he just had to sit there like, they do.
Yeah.
So then he's like, Christ, I can't go for the heel making fun of the local sports team. So he states that Santa is not real, and I'm not sorry about stating that. So then a Santa chant began, and they cut to a child chanting Santa. He talks about the better holiday, Hanukkah, and it's all about giving, and he has started a fundraiser. And he pretends to cry as this solemn piano music starts playing, and he speaks of a starving child as he shows us a screenshot of photoshopped Adam Cole, a freakishly small yellow baby. And this was enough of a Photoshop way that Excalibur did have to clarify for everyone that is a Photoshop.
Yeah,
and I don't know what that to me would not have been a successful bit if Excalibur felt the need to tell everyone that's not really Adam Cole.
So I almost felt like it was a bigger insult that Excalibur felt the need to clarify that the picture you're seeing was not actually Adam Cole. Like it's as if to say, oh, we better clarify this because many people could actually mistaken this for Adam Cole's body. Like how insulting.
He's always got those shirts on and the jacket and the jeans. It's hard to see his frame. So he turns this into a promotion for his fundraiser by scanning the QR code to order World's End. And if you buy the show, a portion will go towards the small yellow child and put him out of his misery. Cole appears on screen. He has met with Tony Khan, and his announcement is that so that you can't use the ring before the match, Taven and Bennett are going to be in his corner, is what I took from this. And then Cole says, "Have I kicked your ass yet?" And then we cut to Adam Cole, who is behind MJF, and he attacks MJF, super kicks him, and then MJF rolls to the floor. Tony Schiavone called this segment a great Dynamite holiday bash moment. This did not turn the tide on this angle. I don't know what is going on, but this is like the worst stretch of MJF's career, and this is some of the worst stuff that Adam Cole has been a part of. It's just I don't know. This is a dead end program to me. I don't know.
And that's why it's happening at World's End. I think they want
this needs to be called Feud's End, okay? Because that's what December 29th has to be.
I had higher hopes for MJF's return, and this was it. Pay-per-view is in 2 weeks, so we have 2 more weeks of them being able to build this. Now they're playing with the full deck with MJF and Adam Cole actually being present together on the same show. I was very disappointed by this first segment. I mean, for somebody as much as we've expected out of MJF, for them to rely on a Photoshop gag for him was, one of the lesser creative, I think, endeavors that we've seen them attempt here. And this was a feud that really needed something very creative to create more of a spark for it. We had, another trope, which was like that pre-taped decoy from Adam Cole. So just kind of like 2 very uninspired, professional wrestling bits that I think was lacking in creativity on the show.
Jamie Hayter reacted to Julia Hart's return that cost her the match with Willow Nightingale. The attack was afterward. And calls her a coward, and she attacked her using your tricks. It was sneaky and classless. So she challenges her to fight for the fallen, and she's going to drop her on her head and serve her a healthy dose of haterade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, Julia Hart is the heel, right? Can we confirm, or is there?
I mean, she was not received as a heel, but
she's gonna get a total babyface like reaction. So I'm just curious about the thinking of pairing her with Jamie Hayter, who's also somebody that the crowd really loves.
And then the announcement of Kenny Omega's return out of nowhere. He's coming back, and he's coming back on 2 weeks' notice on January the 5th at Wrestle Dynasty.
Wow.
If you have been watching AEW, there's been no mention of this, but this was brief, but I thought a very effective video and made this feel like a big deal. And they were very clear to state that he's returning at Wrestle Dynasty, but he's also returning to AEW very soon.
Yeah. I mean, Wrestle Dynasty has been, I guess, somewhat interesting to see them try to promote, or at least start to promote, because it is very clearly not a proper AEW show, but it is linked enough to their entire universe that they feel more need to mention it than obviously a typical New Japan Pro Wrestling show. So they're kind of like half-ass promoting it by assuming that you're already up to date with all the stuff that's been going on with like all the AEW integration into New Japan. So I think that's the level you're really going to see.
Christian Cage and Nick Wayne took on Hook and Katsuyori Shibata. Hook wearing his cast for the broken hand after punching through glass. And so they worked on the hand for a long period of time. Shibata then comes in, rapid fire chops to Nick Wayne, and then goes for the armbar. Wayne reaches the rope, and then I thought Shibata looked very good here. He was hitting STOs to both Wayne, then Cage, and then Hook suplexes Cage on the floor as Nick goes for the Wayne's World and leaps into a rear naked choke by Shibata, but Shibata lets go to boot Sabian off the apron into a red rum on the floor. This match was getting very good at this point, and then Cage runs in behind the referee's back, gouging the eyes of Shibata and hitting him with the kill switch and allowing Nick Wayne to pin Katsuyori Shibata in 11 minutes and 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good match. Crowd was very hot for this one too, which made the in-ring work feel that much more successful. Overall, I'm still not very interested in this Hook versus Christian thing, or really the patriarchy as a whole, as a threat that I'm supposed to feel for the world title picture. It just feels like such a mid-card act to me,
We then went to the Chris Jericho King of New York video, which consisted of him and a cameraman going around Times Square to different parts of the city and talking about the urine-soaked sidewalks of Broadway and the tear-filled potholes of Jamaica, Queens. And look at him, just having the time of his life in New York City. And he will be damned if anyone takes his crown.
Yeah, I think the gag is for somebody who claims himself to be the king of New York. I mean, somebody who's actually born there. He's doing the most touristy things imaginable in New York.
Who gets their photo at this particular landmark? I mean, only the ultimate tourists.
Looks like a Torontonian to me, taking a photo like this. But like having, I don't know, just going to like a checklist of like the most touristy Times Square things. So, I mean, somewhat amusing, did it appeal to you? Did it work for you?
I mean, I can't say it was that. Given the pay-per-views in 2 days, I don't know if this would have been my final kind of push for this match for a large audience.
Would you have shown footage of Chris Jericho at the GCW event attacking Matt Cardona?
I mean, yeah, I would have.
Well, the fact that they didn't, I wonder if that says anything. Like, are they just determining that whole GCW thing maybe too in the weeds for most Dynamite viewers, or is it just strictly more of an online buzz, to generate online buzz for the diehards?
They need to get online buzz out of their lexicon. Okay, that needs to be a New Year's resolution. Okay. Then we got our latest Bandito vignette. They've had 2 weeks, great vignettes. Unfortunately for week 3. I think they ran out of footage that they shot because we had nothing left after the big shirtless attack last week. So all we got was in-ring highlights and then a shot of the man without his shirt on. And I think they had nothing left. So he's got to come back because they've got to do another shoot.
It was a very high budget shoot, John. You know, like this stuff looked very expensive.
Guys, we got 60 seconds of stuff. We can get 2:30s out of this, but don't stretch it to a third.
So I mean, I didn't mind this. Okay, like this I think often happens, especially with like bands, actually, like when they run out of their music budget on like the first video of like an album, they have nothing more left, so they're just like they scrap together maybe like bonus footage, tour footage, and they put together like a final video just to kind of push that last single out. This kind of felt like that, but perfectly fine. The timing isn't right to debut him right now, and you can't, after airing those vignettes, not have something Bandito related. So all you really wanted, I think the hype has already been like successfully built through the first two videos. You just want to delay the debut one more time, and maybe that's what this was.
Mariah May addressed Thunder Rosa. So Thunder Rosa issued the challenge for World's End, where this will be a Tijuana street fight at World's End, and she is bringing her father to Orlando to watch this.
To bring the sands of Tijuana.
Yes, and she is going to make the cardinal mistake of a close family member for a monumental title challenge in their career.
Yes. So,
might not go well for her. She states that she asks why Thunder Rosa wanted to become a wrestler while she was a social worker. She says that a hero is just a dreamer who doesn't realize they're dreaming. I only care about myself. I've eclipsed every woman here, and if I was here 4 years ago, Thunder Rosa, you wouldn't have even been hired. So bring your father. And she asks if there are two generations, that she can end 2 generations in one night, and asks if failure runs in the family. So I thought another fine promo here from Mariah May.
I thought so too. I think she's really found her voice lately. Probably still needs to even take it to another level, or at least like be connected in like another significant feud post Toni Storm, post Mina Shirakawa, to really continue to establish herself. But I think she's finding her voice. Like she, the high expectations for like hardcore matches for the women in AEW. So expect this one to.
This will be a violent match.
Violent. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am going to need your help to explain this next segment.
Oh, boy.
Tony Schiavone brings out Ricochet, and they note he's got 6 points in the Continental Classic, and Schiavone asks him about the recent change in attitude for old Rick. And before he can answer, the Hurt Syndicate come out, and Ricochet brings up beating Commander and Brody King and says, I could end up facing Shelton. And against Ospreay, you're going to see a different side of me on Saturday. MVP cuts him off and asks to see the business card. So Ricochet pulls out the Hurt Syndicate card that was handed to him, and they rip it up as Lashley grabs Ricochet, and MVP tells the freshman in high school, no one likes a kiss ass, and they send Ricochet fleeing to the back like a total geek. I didn't know what this was, but what it was the worst segment on the show tonight.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. So very interesting. This was a very hot crowd. We've established. They were pretty quiet after this segment, and I think we all collectively like shared that similar reaction, because we were all probably
how are you to react to this?
Completely confused why they would do this to Ricochet. Okay, like we're talking about Ricochet, okay, somebody who was brought in, like I would say, with a considerable amount of buzz. Okay, he went from being a pretty cool babyface to maybe being a not as cool, or at least just maybe not as hot babyface, we should say, but gaining a lot of people's hopes by teasing a cool heel turn. So for the better part of, I guess,
there's nothing cool about this character.
They went from cool heel to now totally turning him into an uncool joke of a reject being bullied by the cool heels. They turned him into like an R-Truth type of character in this segment. And that was shocking to me. Like they would like take that investment and completely cool him off like by doing this to him. And I say all of this with the caveat that, okay, this could actually be their way of leading to something, whether it be Swerve or something against Swerve. But
it leads to Swerve later.
It's clear that Ricochet is at least staying as a heel, but what tier of heel, I think, remains to be seen. Even then, I just don't think you'd ever want to like have your audience picture him this way, right? Like, you don't want your marquee guys to
Could you imagine Will Ospreay in this scenario?
I can't. No.
Like, these two should be on like equal footing in perception to your audience. And you are going into this match on Saturday. I don't care what this leads to. I would never try to take someone that the audience does see as a star coming here and making them look so insignificant as this one did. I don't know if this will just be a blip in Ricochet's ongoing turn here, but I think there's a decent shot that we could look back at this as one of those just absolutely puzzling moments that paints this guy as just someone of no consequence on this roster.
I think the cool factor is so important for somebody like a Ricochet, you know, really for any modern professional wrestler, especially if you're going to be a babyface or even a heel, and to just even like entertain the idea of putting him into this like low level guy type of light is, I think, potentially very risky and very damaging for, you know, this high value property that they've acquired, you know, from free agency. But again, like, this isn't the end of Ricochet, even on this episode. So maybe we'll talk about the next segment and we'll maybe fully assess what we think of Ricochet afterwards.
Well, Wai hit it on the head. This sucked the life out of this crowd, and this next match paid for it with Shelton Benjamin and Beast Mortos. If you were in the building, it seemed like the energy had come down. If you were watching at home, I don't know how you could pay attention to anything here beyond like MVP just sniping at Matt Menard for most of this thing. It just felt as though, like, it was like, am I watching a match or am I watching a promo segment here with MVP and Matt Menard? Because I can't take both at the same time. But Beast Mortos early on applies a Greco-Roman knuckle lock, and he goes to walk the top rope, and old school crashed because then he crotched himself. And the announcers just said, oh, Shelton knocked him off balance. And this felt like SmackDown last week, where we had to listen to the announcers state, oh, she missed the moonsault. And you were watching something completely different that your eyes were conveying to you. So, I mean, to Shelton's credit, he just rebounded and just kneed this guy in the face and sent him to the floor. I thought Shelton looked very good in this match. He hit a running power slam, and then after Beast Mortos fights back, he runs into a super kick, and then Shelton does the release Germans. And what I like about this is that he's not doing them the traditional way where it's just you hold on. It's like he lets go, and he makes the crowd get more into each one, and he really milks these three.
He's doing Suplex City.
He is, but it got this crowd back into things because they were kind of on their hands for the first half of this. And by the end of this third German, they were cheering. He hits a pair of step-up knees, and then his finisher that MVP identifies as the hurt fall to win in 8:47. Beast Mortos remains at 0 points. He was eliminated going into this, and Shelton improves to 6 points in the Blue League.
We got the hurt lock and the hurt fall. They're really...
I mean, they're certainly not wasting time debating naming clever names. Yeah. It's like, what comes to mind instantly?
The hurt slam, the hurt knee, the hurt punch coming up. So, all right. Good match. You know, I think Shelton has been very entertaining to watch. He, I think, is on my list of like most improved this year, and that's not even suggesting that he's like a better wrestler. It's just saying he's way better booked now than he, I think, has been in years. And now he's actually getting to showcase all the skill that he's probably had within him now for his entire career. All of his matches in AEW have been like a pretty high standard, I think, and I think those running knees are looking great. They're doing a great job of incorporating the Suplex City, you know, spot into a part of his repertoire that is now recognized. I think I'm actually way more in seeing Shelton than Lashley at this point, at least when it comes to in-ring. I never thought I'd be saying that. So he continues to impress, and I think the C2 has been a really good way to just give us more of him, you know. And Mortos, like, for a guy who, I guess if you want to have a guy to take pins and go winless, being great matches, maybe hard to think of somebody more entertaining than him.
Not a great tournament for luchadors between him and Commander.
Unfortunately. Next year.
So the Hurt Syndicate, they return, and they just continue to beat on Mortos. Benjamin joins in, and then Daniel Garcia comes out and says, I'm not stupid. I know what'll happen if I come down there. It's 3-on-1. And they're like, well, are you stupid? And he explains, I don't care. So he goes down and he's willing to be stupid and go into this outnumbered situation when Mark Briscoe backs him up. Fortunately, that was all who backed him up. And these two just got the piss beat out of them with Mark Briscoe going down to a cane shot and Shelton laying out Daniel Garcia and holding the TNT title. So the cool heels were presented as cool heels here and destroying these baby faces and indicating a Shelton chase for the TNT title, which, I mean, could be something that comes out of Saturday when Shelton and Garcia have their Continental Classic match.
Mm-hmm.
Renee is back to get Ricochet's reaction. How do you think that segment was supposed to go? Ricochet, he literally is asked about what just happened out there, and is the Hurt Syndicate offer off the table? He's like, I don't know. I'm just focused on the Continental Classic. And one of the reasons I came to AEW was Will Ospreay. I came here to beat him and shut him up. I mean, I don't know why this angle happened 20 minutes earlier. Like, it had no effect on this. He just changed the subject. He turns around.
The fact that they brought it up, clearly, I think we're supposed to continue to think about it, right?
Well, he turns around to see Swerve and Nana, and Swerve calls him a turd. And then Swerve, a man after my heart, because there is nothing I like more than a little reality mixed into fake conversations. And Swerve says, I knew it was just a matter of time before the real Rico, or should I say, the real Trevor, showed his face. And Ricochet, I quote, oh, Trevor, oh, you're going to use my real name. He says, Swerve says, I thought you might have changed, but it's still the same old Trevor, a follower. And that's not going to work here in AEW. Ricochet says, well, I know the real Swerve too. And you didn't win the Continental Classic last year. And this year, I'm going to win the Continental Classic. So, we got Trevor here in AEW. So, I was hoping.
What's Swerve's real name?
Stefan.
Wait, is it actually Stefan?
He is Stefan Strickland.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because I was going to say, I feel like I figured out this Ricochet, whatever this was supposed to be. Okay, we saw a very different Ricochet tonight than his prior to his AEW run. Now, you neglected to include this in your recap, John, but he did do the Jadakiss laugh not once, but twice.
I didn't skip over that. I can't do that.
Yes, he did it twice. Okay, and it was even more obnoxious than it was last week. So there's a very clear intent from Ricochet now to be an obnoxious heel. And
he's a dork. Like, he is a dork.
Kind of dorky. Now, whether or not dorkiness is the intended effect, I mean, I don't know. But it's being played up.
It is the end result of this.
It's being played up for some form of heel character change that he's now doing. And I think I figured it out. And you mentioned Stefan. I think Ricochet is supposed to be Stefan. Trevor is Steve Urkel. Okay, I think that's where we're at. All right, are we seeing just the nerdiest, like, original Trevor with like the big afro that we've seen in all the that Triple H photo? Is that guy going to come back? Is this what this is?
Is Samantha Irvin coming in as Laura?
Yes, sure. And then like Laura would want nothing to do with Trevor. Anyway, I don't know what this is. I'll say at the very least, it's interesting. It's more interesting than I guess like what Ricochet has been doing. He needs to take these sort of risks. How risky? I'm not here to like even say that this was successful or not. But I think he needed some form of change, and I'm at least interested to see where this is going, more than I was after just watching the first segment at least.
Yeah, I think this has been terrible. I'm not opposed to this guy doing a heel turn, but be a cocky asshole. I mean, it's just, I don't know. To me, this is, I don't know. We will see. Maybe this is going to be his career maker here.
We'll see. We'll check in.
He'll rename the 630 Splash. Did I do that?
I love it.
Toni Storm, Portrait of a Rock Star. She is doing a sit down with RJ City, and she is all starstruck and gives her origin story when she's asked where she's been. She loves the grind, and when asked what timeless Toni Storm means to her, she just explains it's Tony time. And Excalibur, who tonight, man, he was not going to let anything slide. It's almost like we've stepped back in time, is how we reacted to this. So we continue to do the. How are you feeling about this character with Tony Storm?
So when we speak of like people taking risks, I don't remember exactly like our initial feelings towards the timeless Tony Storm character, but I would imagine that it was met with like somewhat similar trepidation to like maybe how
I think
we're
people were
reacting.
pretty positive on it because it's not like Tony Storm was knocking them dead in the prior character, and it was something. I mean, I
probably
like the character when
before
it
the
began.
full packaging is timeless Tony Storm. She was like doing certain mannerisms and things like that. I have to imagine like it was still met with like similar skepticism. So all I'm saying is sometimes as performers are maybe stuck in a certain pattern, they need to take big risks like that. And all I'm saying is I'm still holding out hope that this Ricochet deal is leading to something. As far as this Tony Storm thing, I actually really like it. I get a kick out of seeing Tony Storm at this point playing a parody of a fresh AEW talent. It all plays into a bigger theme of her being this she's somebody suffering from amnesia, and I find it really interesting. It's been very much, I think, discussed and debated about like having her have her first match on Rampage and Collision. I've actually come to like really respect that move because it shows that they have a real dedication to this storyline. More so than maybe they have a craving for, I don't know, like a significant rating. They want to show that this is a person who thinks of themselves as a brand new rookie, and a brand new rookie would have a match on Rampage, right? So I'm really interested in where they're going here. I have complete trust in the creative sort of heads that have been responsible thus far for this timeless Tony Storm storyline, and I think the performances from Tony Storm they've been great, and now this time maybe totally different, and I would say fresh compared to what the timeless Tony Storm character was.
Now, here's the one question. RJ City went through a list of names asking Tony Storm her reaction to them. This included like Saraya, and he said...
People from her past, yeah.
Well, he said Mercedes Moné. And if this is the debuting Tony Storm, that predated Mercedes Moné existing.
She's not going back in time. She's acting as if that past never happened. So she's just starting right now.
But how would she know who Mercedes Moné is?
She's an active member of the current roster.
But she called her a legend.
Well, she knows her as Sasha Banks, I guess. She's speaking of her career as a whole.
Okay, so she remembers the WWE stuff, but not the AEW stuff.
I guess not.
Okay. I'm just trying to piece this all
Or maybe
together.
she does know like all of what's happened over the past like 2-3 years. She just doesn't remember her own role in it.
Okay. I'm trying to piece it all together.
Not
Will
for you, I take it.
No, listen, I'm not as like I've cut bait on the Ricochet stuff. I think with the thing is, if you're not enjoying this Tony Storm stuff, like this character is a detour. I don't think like this is going to be this 6 month.
It's part of the bigger narrative. Yeah,
it is, and I'm not that down on this at all for the time being. And
just wait and see this with this Ricochet thing. All right.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe
The
I'll be
next
proven
Tony
wrong.
Storm.
You know what? Possible. I think he might want amnesia to forget about all of this. Will Ospreay against Darby Allin in the Gold League. I think everyone looked at this as the big match on the show, and this one did not disappoint. I thought this was one of the best TV matches of the year, and I think this was like a top 25 match for Will this year. Darby early on hits a tope suicida early on and is teasing the coffin drop. So Ospreay rolls to the edge of the apron. And Darby shifts his footing and goes for a coffin drop, missing Will. He hit this edge of the apron with a thud I have never heard a man's body make in a wrestling ring quite like this. If this guy never got up from this one bump, it would not have surprised me in the least. The speed and the sound that this made was like... I was in pain watching this.
he's done this before, and every
he has, but somehow this one was the one that I think I will always think of whenever he tries this again in the future, because this one just had some different kind of pop to it. Like, this thud will be embedded in my memory for at least a week.
Yeah, every time this guy does this, I mean, they say like he's got his ways of making this maybe look worse than it actually is, but God, I can't imagine.
Let's take his word for it.
I can't imagine this was painless. Okay, he's just a different type of wrestler.
So, I mean, they are just going at a pace you are just not going to see too many guys working at. And man, they hit everything in this match. And there were some intricate sequences that they had mapped out. Like, I double checked before this. Like, this is the first time that they have had a match together. I thought maybe they crossed paths and Evolve or something like that. I mean, that's even more impressive that you watch this and you would have thought like these guys have wrestled each other countless times and they've just got their rhythm. Like, these were two bodies that were just in sync with one another. Ospreay lands the cheeky Nando's kick, and then the Code Red gets countered. So Will, landing on his feet, hits the hidden blade, goes for the Stormbreaker, and then Darby hits this crisp Code Red for an awesome near fall, and the crowd's going nuts here. Darby then sidesteps a Os Cutter into a coffin drop, coming off the rope, gets a 2 count, and then Darby decides he's going to go for a superplex to Will to the floor. Will stops this, ending on the edge where he lifts up Darby for a Styles Clash. Then he turns 90 degrees towards the floor, and he just stands there long enough for all of the crowd to realize what they are about to see. And he hits a Styles Clash to the floor and buckles his knee upon impact. So he's selling the knee. Darby beats the count right into a perfectly timed Os Cutter. This is just incredible. Goes for the Stormbreaker after that, and Darby counters, landing the Scorpion Death Drop, climbs to the top, coffin drop to the back, one more, hitting the proper version on the chest, and pinning Will Ospreay in 14 minutes and 38 seconds in just a unbelievable match. This was spectacular.
Yeah,
this was the best match of the tournament for my money, ahead of the Kyle Fletcher Mark Briscoe match from Saturday, which was another excellent match. This was at another level.
Yeah, when we maybe, like, in my mind, I've kind of been comparing, maybe unfairly, like the C2 to the G1, and I say that's unfair because I think like a TV format versus like just a New Japan World format should be very different, and the matches booked should be very different. But like I've yet to really kind of see the C2 reach the standard or the consistency of a G1 where we're getting like match of the year candidates. These past 2 episodes of AEW television are where we've kind of turned the corner slightly on that, between the Fletcher Briscoe match and now this match. This is now becoming a tournament that I think you can discuss in the same breath as the G1, starting to, this totally lived up to, I think, my very high expectations of what these two would be capable of together. Like, incredibly precise in everything that they attempt.
Amazing.
Yeah. Incredible agility. Like, I wonder how much rehearsal went on between these two. But like, you almost get the sense that like, they're just kind of built to like do everything perfectly that they dream of. Like, you rarely see them botch. And when the two of them are together, it's magical, flawless execution of some of these sequences, including several of those Stormbreakers counters that you just have to watch in like 0.25x in order to really appreciate like the precision at which they're executing all of these perfect flips. It's Darby, so there's going to be some crazy bumps in there, and you saw that with the Styles Clash off the apron. You saw it with the missed coffin drop off the apron. I loved, beyond just even the crazy bumps and the athleticism, the desperation of Darby Allin as he's coming off of that Scorpion Death Drop, still selling the effects of that Styles Clash off the apron, and having to just like basically like rush, with the last ounces of energy that he has to do those 2 coffin drops. Lit this crowd up entirely, and provided one of the highlights of our wrestling tournament that we've been watching here.
Yeah, and I think just to that point of Collision, which we talked about, was a really strong show on Saturday. They gave you a great kind of setup for this match as well between Ospreay and Darby Allin. This was not just, it's their pairing in the Gold League and it's time for them to have their match. Like, they they had something set up on Saturday, and they're going to have stuff coming out of this as well after this tournament. But this was, the match to check out from the show. It was excellent. Claudio walks out at the end, and he's eyeing Darby, who he's got on Saturday on Collision. So, I mean, man, these two, after this match, and they've got to come back Saturday, and both have really big matches. Darby with Claudio, and, of course, Ospreay with Urkel. Main event, it's Moxley, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta against Orange Cassidy, Jay White, and Hangman Page. So Yuta and Orange Cassidy start the match, and Moxley strikes Orange in the throat. So still selling the effects of that of the poison. He's going to have a bad throat the rest of his career. Maybe that's what I'm.
Maybe that's what you got. Yeah,
could
drink some cleaner lately.
Might have put some Drano down my throat by mistake. Page gets into Shafir's face on the floor, and then he's calling on Moxley to tag himself in, but White then tags himself in, and Hangman is pissed that he was tagged out of the match, so he just leaves. He goes to the back. Claudio then uppercuts Orange on the floor as Moxley hits a pile driver, and they get control of Jay White. There's a FU Yuta chants from the crowd, which are starting to become a staple in Wheeler Yuta's matches. White hits this desperation lariat on Pac as he's fighting on his own. Orange Cassidy has been beaten down on the floor, so it's everyone against Jay White. He manages the DDT onto Moxley, makes the tag, so Cassidy gets to do his Orange Cassidy comeback, which included pair of satellite DDTs, and then goes for the orange punch and is caught with a Moxley cutter. Hangman reappears to attack Moxley, and as the orange punch is hit, Page is left on the apron to set up the buckshot lariat, and Yuta runs Cassidy into Hangman on the apron. There's a stun dog onto Yuta, and then Page comes back with the buckshot, and you don't know if he was aiming for Orange because Orange gets out of the way, so he takes out Yuta with the buckshot lariat, and from there, a Blade Runner onto Pac. But the three challengers for the title match all are arguing, so Moxley sneaks up from behind, schoolboys Cassidy, and pins him as the three continue to argue afterwards, and then the Death Riders would surround the ring. They had a chair, and the challengers have to work together to fight them off while Moxley and Shafir hightail it and leave the other members to fight Moxley's challengers for World's End.
Yes. So at the end of this episode, we know the three faces cannot get along. And it's the heel champ who continues to sneak past them. Again, like somewhat unconventional way to build to a four-way, you know, when it's like three baby faces essentially trying to work together against one heel. In the moment, the faces do have to look weak because I think the greater story is that I imagine it all ends with the faces actually getting on the same page to really put a threat on the Death Riders. I still don't know how I feel about it. You know, I don't know if this is like the way I would use these talents involved in order to build to a title match on the pay-per-view. But I trust that they have a bigger climax that really makes the overall Death Riders takeover storyline make a bit more sense. I will say I think they've done a good job in this build so far of defining each person's motivations. You know that for instance, Cassidy is somebody who wants to save AEW by ridding the Death Riders. That's what he wants. White, I think, just wants the title. And Page is just a bit of a psycho who wants nothing more than to beat Jon Moxley. So each of them
he wants the title too. Like that is his big motivating factor.
Right. But yeah, but to me the jury's still out on whether or not this is the most effective way of building to a title match.
If you were to lay this out and the Death Riders angle, you think this is a long-term angle, but my question would be, what do you think is the patience level that the audience is going to have for this Death Riders ruling this show and in this position? Like, is this something that you can drag out to next summer, or do you need something that is a bit more? 'Cause there is going to be a point. I think the audience is still largely in a wait and see approach because you have all these like challengers that are being built up for down the road, like your Darbys, your Ospreays, if an Eddie Kingston comes back. But what is the runway you have from an audience perspective of this angle? That I think it's fair to say the Death Riders, the jury is somewhat out, but it's not like this is lighting the world on fire.
I would also say that I think they're having to face a higher level of skepticism than they would have otherwise if it if this didn't follow, for instance, the Young Bucks Elite attempted quote unquote takeover, other maybe you could say creative stumbles that the company has been still somewhat tarnished by, like Cole and MJF, for instance. So there's a lot more skepticism on the success of these sort of storylines than there otherwise would be. I think this story needs hits, like in the course of its run. The Cassidy Moxley build I think has been fine, but maybe nothing that's been so blow away yet. This four-way build, I'm personally a bit skeptical on. They need big name programs, and I'm looking forward to Adam Copeland being in this whole thing. Copeland feels to me like somebody who'd be great, a great scene partner for John Moxley when it comes to these sort of like philosophical debates about what AEW represents versus what AEW
and that's definitely a direction you could have coming out of that Fight for the Fallen match. Like whether maybe he doesn't have to pin Moxley, but he could get the fall. And that is, I guess, after that show, there is, I guess, Australia's like the next major show, because Revolution isn't usually till the first weekend of March. I don't think they have any major show before then.
Yeah. So, whether or not they can continue and whether or not the audience has patience for it, I think will depend on how many wins they can get in the course of all of this. I think the talent is there. Moxley is about as capable of a Thanos type of character as you could get in the company. Whether or not they could have enough creative to support it, to get it to its finish line, I mean, it probably remains to be seen. But, eventually I want to see Swerve a part of this. I mean, Ospreay's already being teased to be a part of it, of course. So they need to really kind of go through like the big names, in order for this to really take off.
Yeah, I mean, maybe part of that is just like we're coming off this match, but to me, like Darby feels like the person. In a lot of ways like that, and represents a fresh name to be in that top position as well, that a Adam Copeland would not represent, even like going back, like, Swerve has been there as well. Like you've had your runs with your Hangmans, like Darby does feel like that homegrown guy that the audience would really be behind, and it's someone very different for that role. Like he's a type of performer that you're not going to be able to replicate elsewhere. Like there's one Darby Allin, and that is that's a difference maker that AEW has in this performer.
I don't disagree with that at all. But we all know Darby Allin has other interests outside of professional wrestling. And is that somebody you want to give that value to of being the guy? Do you want him to be the guy to conquer the Death Riders, and when he's going to be trying to conquer a mountain, for the better part of next year?
The mountain's the warm up.
And then the Death Riders after that, maybe. Okay.
So tonight's edition, when I was done this Dynamite, I thought this was a really enjoyable show. For the most part, but there was some stuff on this, mainly that god awful Ricochet segment and the Adam Cole MJ. Like really, the non wrestling stuff was the stuff that I had the issue with. That said, it was more than offset with, really we didn't have any terrible match. Like I thought Benjamin and Mortos was it was hampered by the crowd. I would say that one, I think, in a better setting and, minus the slip, I think could have been received better. But largely, I mean, you're kind of nitpicking. The wrestling was certainly a strength on this show, and one of the better TV matches I've seen in a long time with Ospreay and Darby and Mercedes and Anna Jay. I just thought that was I thought they did a great job on this show.
Yeah, between Jay and Moné and Ospreay and Allin, I can't not give this show like an automatic thumbs up. I actually thought it was a very enjoyable Dynamite. I'll say even like the disappointing talking segments. Yes, the jury's still completely out on this Ricochet thing. But to me the positive is that like there's something going on with Ricochet that makes him at least slightly more interesting than before. Whether or not it's good or bad, again, jury's still out. Even the Adam Cole and MJF thing, I would classify that more as disappointing because of the standard that I know an MJF segment should be at. What we got ultimately was just kind of typical, like, I don't know, WWE, I photoshopped your face on like a body type of thing.
We should go over for Saturday what they've announced so far for the Hammerstein Ballroom. These are all Continental Classic matches with Daniel Garcia against Shelton Benjamin, Mark Briscoe against Beast Mortos, Will Ospreay and Ricochet, and Claudio against Darby Allin. And next week, for the Christmas Day edition of Dynamite, also being taped at the Hammerstein, Will Ospreay against Brody King, Darby Allin against Ricochet. So think about that. So Wednesday night, he has this match with Ospreay. Saturday, Claudio. And then Sunday, he's doing this match with Ricochet. That's an insane stretch. And then also for next week, Claudio against Commander, which I think that match will be, that'll be awesome. Like those styles just totally mesh. Okada and Shelton Benjamin, and Kyle Fletcher against Daniel Garcia.
And to me, again, the star of all of these shows is the Hammerstein Ballroom. I want to see all of these matches in that space with hopefully some really hot crowds.
And these are all the matches that are going to set up the World's End, because after next week's Dynamite, we should have the top 2 seeds for each to set up the semifinals for World's End.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, Kate from Montreal, John Cena will be in the Post Wrestling Cafe on Saturday night, whenever Collision ends, to talk about both Final Battle and also AEW Collision.
All right. We will head on over to your feedback at forum.postwrestling.com.
Got a super chat here, actually, from Kevin Anderson, who sends $5. An MMA question for John. What was the wackiest name to sign to the GFL for you? And have you seen the IFL rap music video?
I think everyone's seen the IFL rap music video. This would have been circa 2007. Does this come to mind?
No, I don't recall.
I'm almost sure you would have seen it. It was a long time ago. It was everything that your the Wrestle Rock Rumble would have been applied to MMA, with like Boss Rutan and the various coaches involved. We can't play it because we'll get flagged by whatever remnants of the IFL still exist out there.
Okay.
But
I can at least show a still of Matt Lindland
the Law
trying to rap.
Yes.
Interesting. I'll have to check this out.
Well, much like the IFL, which thought a team concept was going to revolutionize MMA, the GFL, the Global Fight League, thinks all these years later the same will occur. This is going to burn a ton of money. What they're doing is they have something like 300 fighters that will be eligible to be drafted in January onto 6 teams. They'll have 2 fighters per weight class that they're promoting. And so you'll have something like 120 fighters altogether. And I mean, you have names like the wackiest is Vanderlei Silva, who I think is 48 years old. And the last time we would have heard from Vanderlei Silva was when he recorded or provided a statement in the antitrust lawsuit to explain why he needed the money now because of issues of CTE and brain trauma. Now, it's not a given that he will be drafted, but knowing MMA history, probably will be. But these are what they are relying on is a ton of names that used to be well-known names, and perhaps none of them have aged. Unfortunately, all of them have aged. And this is the wild list, like Fabricio Verdum, Tyron Woodley, Junior Dos Santos, Hector Lombard, Vanderlei Silva, Andre Arlovsky, who had been fighting in the UFC up until recently. I mean, listen, all you had to hear was that they don't even have a TV deal yet, and their backup is that they will run shows on their app. I don't know. This, to me, over time, you get accustomed to different red flags. This one has multiples, okay? This has maybe all of them when it comes to a company that, I mean, I can't say that they won't be around a year from now, but the people running this, they're going to be significantly less financially sound than they are at this moment after this goes through. A lot of money will be spent on this.
I hope this at least sees one show, okay? Show.
They're targeting April. Fighters. They're targeting April for its first card.
I just want a future Dark Side of the Cage episode about it.
Well, I mean, Global Fight League, they might get that type of acclaim, but it's been seems that MMA every so often you get some wacky things going on. By the way, speaking of wacky, did you see the Great Sasuke angle at Korakuen Hall? So, again, I did not watch the show. I am totally watching this clip. I don't think I have to preface it by saying I didn't see it in context, because the context was enough where Great Sasuke is coming out dressed as Donald Trump through the crowd, surrounded by secret security members, and then the people in the ring start firing off fake guns to replicate like the assassination attempt. So they shield Great Sasuke in the crowd, and then he gets up yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." I mean, if this was done and anyone was paying attention, the amount of like, I could see like some political blogs finding this clip and just running with it because it's so wild and wacky. But yeah, that's what I saw tonight, and that's what happened.
Okay, I can
a reenactment of a real assassination attempt.
I can at least see this still shot. Make Michinoku great again. Holy shit, dude! Oh my god.
Yeah. So this was
a former politician.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to expand his base.
Yeah. He's a very interesting man, I've come to realize.
He has, yes. Go watch the documentary if you want to learn more about Great Sasuke.
Goodness. Wow.
Okay, so on that note, let us go to feedback.
One more here. This comes to us from Matt Solo, who has been a YouTube member for us for 8 months. And if you become a member at youtube.com/postwrestling, you get access to our video content. And I believe you can chime in with a super chat every month or so. So he says, who do you see winning the Continental Classic?
All right, let's go through the updated point totals here. Okay, so in the Blue League, Kyle Fletcher is first with 9 points. Okada is second with 7, followed by Shelton Benjamin and Mark Briscoe with 6. Daniel Garcia with 4. Beast Mortos with 0. Beast Mortos and Commander are both out of this. Do you see Fletcher and Okada being the two to go through in the Blue League, or do you see a Daniel Garcia or do you see Shelton, Briscoe, or Garcia having a chance to be one of the two? I think Fletcher is a given.
I think Okada's a given. He's defending.
I think so too. That's my thought. I feel those two either they're first or second, but those are the two I would suggest. The Gold League is a little more open-ended. Darby, Ospreay, and Claudio and Ricochet all have 6 points. Brody King has 3. As I mentioned, Commander is out. I see Ospreay going through because I see Fletcher and Ospreay being 1 versus 2 to create a semifinal matchup. I guess I'll lean. I could see Darby and Ospreay being 1 and 2. I guess that's a potential. I don't see Claudio. I don't see Brody. Ricochet could use it, but
Steve
could. I mean, I guess Ricochet has a potential chance, but I'm going to lean as that being the final 4 with Darby, Ospreay, Okada, and Fletcher. And I think there's a very strong argument to. I'd lean Ospreay. That would be my thought.
Ospreay versus. So I think Okada makes it to the end.
Could you do Okada and Ospreay in the final?
You could. Yeah, you could. Or could you do Fletcher Ospreay for a final?
Well, you could do the final as well. Like Ospreay and Fletcher could both finish in first, and then they win their semifinal matches, and they go there. That would mean then you could promote Ospreay and Okada and Fletcher Darby. And then get to your final that way, providing these are the 4 that make it. I can't imagine Fletcher and Ospreay don't have a rematch on this pay-per-view. That's my thought.
Yeah, if it's Fletcher Ospreay in the final, Fletcher.
Would you go with Ospreay, or would you put Fletcher over?
The conventional booking tells me that Ospreay would get his win back. But man, I'd go Fletcher, man. Like he's the guy that would gain the most out of winning this. Again, Ospreay is somebody who's already established. He'll still be a top draw even after this. At the same time, winning the C2 will kind of make up for like the string of losses he's had recently. So I think I'm going to go Ospreay, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So that's our unofficial pick. We have the right to reserve judgment.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, let's go to Steve from Virginia Beach. This is his feedback. I don't know. Just from his interactions with the Hurt Syndicate and Swerve. It's like Ricochet's gimmick now is the guy who's known as being corny, who acts tough when no one's around, then gets punked out when other cooler, tougher guys are around. Like a Carlton Banks. Okay, so another suggestion there, as we stay with 90s sitcoms.
You know, listen, I just want to see the hair grow back out from Trevor, okay? Like, come on, this guy, this is a new character, okay?
Trevor.
This is his timeless Tony Storm.
Is he slowly going to eliminate Ricochet?
What do you mean? Like,
Is he going to morph into Trevor?
that's what I would love to see. If he's gonna be a heel, he's got to look like this. Okay, If he can go
Trevor,
that here.
man.
I'm curious. Okay, I'm very interested to see what this is. We go up next to Jordan from the Bronx, who says, "I'm not a Jericho fan in any way, but I have gotten a kick out of his King of New York character. Just know that as a New York City born and raised guy, Spanish Harlem is absolutely not known for having posh penthouses."
I think that's part of the gag is that he doesn't know anything about New York, and he makes all these, like, didn't he call it like the city of brotherly love in another?
Yes.
He's come up with all of these. I think that's the purpose, is that he's supposed to be ignorant about anything to do with New York.
Yes. Ricochet being a cornball, getting sunned by Bobby Lashley, and continuing to be a cornball afterwards actually made my night. I have no idea what Ricochet stuff is leading to, but like Jericho, I'm enjoying him fully committing to the bit. It's that damn laugh. It's working. Darby Ospreay was fantastic. Shelton continues to look like a killer, and Tony Storm's PTSD character is off to a great start. Finally, the smaller building makes the crowd look much more lively. I'm still on the fence about going to one of the Hammerstein shows, but if I had to choose one, Collision adding Ospreay and Ricochet may have my vote.
I think they look like interesting shows. I think, and I think Saturday is probably, that looks like a really strong show. Andrew from Cape Breton, I figured that Will Ospreay and Darby Allin would be a good match, but they wrestled like they were offended that people were making match of the year picks already, and the year wasn't done yet. That was one of the best TV wrestling matches all year. I'm still not sure how Darby functions. The crowd chanted, "You killed Darby," and considering what people have done to Darby in the past, that was quite the chant. The show also seemed like it had brighter lighting to show off the crowd more, even though they were in a smaller building. I like Benjamin and Mortos. I thought Anna Jay had one of the best matches of her career. I like what they're doing with Tony Storm, and hell, I even enjoyed the MJF Adam Cole segment, but mostly for the typical MJF comedy. I'm unsure about Ricochet, however. I get that as a heel, you're supposed to not look cool, but Ricochet came off like a bit of a geek. Maybe there's more to it, but I thought that interaction was a bit weird. Overall, an incredible Dynamite. I appreciate how much leeway everyone is giving for this Ricochet character. Like, we'll see. I don't know. We will in fact see.
We will see. Brian in New Jersey says, incredible match between Darby and Ospreay. Huge win and overall performance for Darby. Ospreay seems cemented for the title of Best Wrestler 2024, and this tournament still has a few days to go with 4 guys tied. I'm attending Dynamite in Hammerstein, and those remaining C2 matches they announced for them look very good. I'm guessing Ospreay versus Brody will have the hottest crowd. Not the most inspiring main event, but I understand why it had to close the show. Love the Hurt Syndicate stuff, and Ricochet remaining a heel outside of that is interesting. It could work beyond tonight, and I like the sounds of him starting something with Swerve.
Muggin. Ospreay and Darby dropped into the match of the year discussion with 2 weeks left, and it stole Dynamite. The main event 6-man was solid, with Moxley taking advantage of the disunity among Cassidy, Switchblade, and Hangman. Don't put a microphone in front of Ricochet again. I'm not going to knock his. I think actually his promos had gotten like to a respectable level from where they were prior. I don't blame any of this on his delivery in any of this. I just think this character is I think the material is garbage.
I think it's way too early. Okay. I do. Like,
all right.
But I, sometimes it's bad enough that you can make up your mind. If the only thing I saw was that Hurt Syndicate portion, I would have said yes. The fact that he continued to commit to this dorky character afterwards in the promo or segment with Renee tells me that they're intentional. They're very intentional about this, and that they have something worthwhile.
Oh, it's definitely intentional. Yes, that is it. We cannot state that they are just like not. They do. It does feel like they do have a concerted plan for Ricochet. This is not just by happenstance that this is all happening.
Lastly, let's go to Matthew England, who says these AEW shows in a vacuum aren't bad from week to week, but when looked at chronologically, they make little sense. Why is Ricochet turning heel? It's like he's playing into this troll character online. The Adam Cole and MJF angle can't end soon enough, and what the hell happened to Swerve? The wrestling carried the show. Ospreay and Allin was awesome, and if that's a final or semifinal, then we are for a treat. How do you guys feel this Moxley storyline ends? Okay, well, first of all, why is Ricochet turning heel is not really a question for the character, because the character is not aware that he's a heel. He's just simply, I think, trying to do more to win his matches when maybe I don't know what he was doing before wasn't working. He's just learning to take advantage of, I think, shortcuts and perhaps taking on the help of the Hurt Syndicate, for instance. I don't know how this Moxley storyline ends. I think he loses to some babyface. AEW is saved, and a new babyface is made the hero.
I mean, that should be how this all culminates. The question is getting to that moment, who the person is, and if it's something that ultimately, like, I think like the payoff should be that there is somebody that feels like a shift in AEW. Like this is a significant event when this title is taken off of Jon Moxley.
Yeah, if we're using the Avengers analogy, okay. Moxley is Thanos, of course. The Death Riders are, I guess, what do they call them? Whatever, like Thanos' crew. You can't have a Tony Stark, okay? That would be the worst, because Tony Stark doesn't come back. Yes, I know he's coming back, but he didn't come back for the next phase. And Marvel completely suffered because they gave all that value to a Tony Stark who wasn't around. He left the territory afterwards, so you had nobody to profit from. So that's why it can't be Tony Stark.
Okay. Who's Spider-Man in this scenario?
Daniel Garcia.
Okay. Yeah, I could buy it. Yeah, there you have it.
Okay.
We can cast our own Avengers film starring AEW.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's going to bring an end to the show. It's been a fun one, as always. A slice, as they say. We are going to be back Friday night after SmackDown. Man, we're going to be going against Final Battle.
Okay. Well, pick and choose. I mean, we'll have coverage of everything, right?
Well, if you do watch Final Battle, feel free to call in afterward and give us your thoughts on the show. We will hear vicariously through you what you thought about the show, because that is all up for open calls on Friday night. Of course, that can be found at postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 gets you access to all of the extra shows that we do on a weekly basis. This month, some of the highlights include Rewind-A-Ways, dedicated to Knock at the Cabin, that came out last week, starring Dave Bautista. And next week, on December 26th, the day after Christmas, we will release a Rewind-A-Way covering Noah's departure event from the Tokyo Dome in July of 2004, featuring Kenta Kobashi against Jun Akiyama. But the big one this month, Monday night, December 30th, we're dropping the best and worst of show for 2024. Did anything tonight reach the levels of best or worst of the year? Find out December 30th. Myself, Wai Ting, Braden Harrington, and Davey Portman. We will give our picks in all of the key categories. So that will be coming your way, and we look forward to it. Always a popular show every single year.
Maybe the most popular of the year.
All right. On that note, we're going to say goodnight, and we will talk to you later on this week.